Okay. All right. So this is not this is not my original, I guess, sort of content that I usually post. I rarely, if ever, post videos of me talking like straight to the camera. I have definitely posted videos of me talking before, but this time it's kind of a little bit more nerve-wracking just because I'm like have a lot on my heart and mind that I want to get out, and I just feel like it's way too much to say in the few characters that Instagram and Facebook give you, and so thus video being made. Really before I get into this, this is just me talking straight from the heart, straight out of my mind, probably a lot of word vomit, not prompted, not sponsored, not in partnership with anyone or any company, not even like doing this through the Chandler project. I just want to do this as me, Chandler. So it is a very exciting week. I turned 28 this Friday, and the next day, November 20th, this Saturday, the first ever therapy for the treatment of achondroplasia is going to be approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Knock on wood. It's, for me, it's kind of exciting for me that it's the day after my birthday, because it just kind of like is another day for me to celebrate. For me, this approval, it brings just a lot of hope, as I know it does for many others. However, I also know it brings a lot of apprehension for a lot of other people. And, the reason that is because a lot of people are scared that what this drug will do and what it means for, I guess, the future is that someday achondroplasia will be eradicated. That's really not the case with this treatment or the treatments that are coming up closely behind it. And it's, like I have been sharing my story for such a long time now, 11 years. And so you pretty much, if you're watching this, you probably know just a lot about my whole journey, and you know how much of an advocate and how important it is for me to just make sure parents of new babies with achondroplasia just have access to this research and everything, because it's very hard for them to get this information. You may not know if you follow me, but you're not really, I guess, within the circle of, having dwarfism. You may not know that it's a very, sometimes it, feels like you're just kind of standing in the middle of a ring of fire, and you're afraid if you, get too close to an edge, you're just gonna get burned. And I have felt like that many, many times over the past decade with everything. And the reason that it's so, scary, I imagine, for parents who are very hopeful and basically just banging at the door of the FDA and their doctors' offices to get these treatments for their child the same way I'm going to be when if Taylor Swift goes on a tour and tickets go on sale. That's exactly how I'm going to be, the way that they're acting about this approval. And it's hard sometimes for them to show how excited they are about this. And so with this video, I'm going to do that for them in celebration of my birthday. So, I want my birthday celebration to be about these families, these children, because, my parents celebrated, obviously, my birth when I was born 28 years ago. Despite the fact I am the third child, and there are a lot of, I'm used to hand-me-downs, I'm used to the forgetful stories. I did my brownie badges were carried in a Ziploc bag, despite the fact that my brother had his badges sewn on. My sister had her Girl Scout badges pinned on. I, like any third child, was lucky if I even remembered to wear my brownie number to the meetings, despite the fact that my mom was my brownie leader. But what I'm getting to is what does kind of make me feel so special is that I am the only one out of my siblings who has a baby book. And in that baby book, it is a big celebration of me from the day I was born. And so my parents did get to celebrate my birth and enjoy it. However, the next day, on November 20th, the day that the first ever therapy for achondroplasia is going to be approved 28 years later, is, I imagine what I feel like November 20th of 1993 was for them is going to be just worlds of a difference for parents today. Parents, maybe if there's a couple out there right now who happens to stumble across this video and you happen to be pregnant with your third baby and it's going to be a little girl. Maybe you don't know if she's going to have achondroplasia or not, but you do know that she has a smart ass older brother and just the coolest sister ever. But she's also maybe is going to have this thing that you've never heard of and you don't know a lot about it. But if she's diagnosed at birth on November 19th of 2021, the next day there's going to be an option for her. And it's going to be an option that my parents would have just, it would have, it wouldn't have I don't think it definitely would have not taken away the fear of the unknown of what it is to have a child with achondroplasia, but it would have just given some sense of relief to know that there is something out there. When I was born and limb lengthening, I went through it, that whole experience. And it's actually been around for quite some time, or had been around for quite some time when I was born. And but regardless regardless of how long it had been around, there really was not too much information on it for achondroplasia, but they knew it was an option, especially like as I got older and more people went through it. But still, even when I went through it myself in 2010, which during the time that I went through my first lengthening, in those like 7.5 months was when BioMarin Pharmaceutical, whose drug is going to be approved from the FDA on November 20th, when I was going through my first lengthening is when they first announced their pipeline. And so it's just kind of, in a way, I feel like I've almost gone full circle, because my whole life has sort of like paralleled with achondroplasia, I would say, because when I was born in November of 1993, achondroplasia has been around longer, way before I was ever born, and it was always diagnosed, but they didn't know how it was caused or what gene caused it until 1994. So I wasn't even a year old when the gene for achondroplasia was discovered. So it's just been very cool. I've thought lately how so much of my life is just like paralleled up to this very point. And who knows what other, moments it will parallel with. But to know that, if there's a baby born this Friday with achondroplasia, to know that those parents who have this child are going to have an option the very next day that will help to prevent, it won't take away the child having achondroplasia. It won't take it away at all. But what it will do is slow down how the gene works. And that is good, because with what the gene does, it basically just kind of, I like to phrase it as just, overreacts, because I have the tendency to just do that myself. And that's the best way I can describe it. But, having achondroplasia is so much more than just being short or being small. That's all. And, it's not just the disproportionate arms and legs to the torso. It's narrow foramen magnum, which causes breathing issues, neurological issues, spinal stenosis. We have hearing complications, breathing complications due to how the bone structure in our face grows, the prominent forehead, just many things. We even are at high risk for heart complications. And for me personally, even without achondroplasia, I am at a severe high risk of heart disease given my family history. So, not only am I at risk for, heart issues because of achondroplasia, and also got the double whammy because I have a long line of family history of very, very, very bad heart disease. And so to know that, if I ever have children and they happen to have achondroplasia, to know that there will be an option for them, and that I can make that decision of if I want them to potentially suffer from achondroplasia, because I feel, you can have a good quality of life with, living with achondroplasia. I would say, I guess I did up until the time that I was 16, because when I was 16, my quality of life began to go downhill because my body just was physically becoming it just became hard. I, felt like, damn, this is like what it's probably like when my when someone who's in their 50s or 60s has a knee replacement. I mean, I was closer to needing my knees replaced than my dad was when he had his knees replaced, or he had one knee replaced a few years after me going through lengthening. So to think about the fact that I could have had double knee replacements at 16 before my dad did at 66, I mean, that's not, I don't really think that's anything anyone wants for their child. And so I was on that road, and thankfully, going through lengthening in the limb alignment and all of that, fixed all of that. But, limb lengthening, I don't need to talk about it. I talk about it literally all the time. You can look up my experience. You can Google my name, Google limb lengthening, and the million different ways I've talked about it will come up. It's the greatest thing that I ever did. However, it doesn't change the fact that I still live with achondroplasia, and I live with the, lifelong, I would say, side effects of achondroplasia. I'm still going to have chances of passing it on to my children, should I have children someday. And, and it, just because I know there are going to be people who watch this, and if I don't say it, they think it won't be true. Limb lengthening has given me plenty of quality of life benefits medically, because the way it is, it helped take pressure off my lower spine, my joints, limbs, everything are aligned, all of that. It does have its medical advantages. I just needed to get that disclosure out. Sorry. No, I'm not. But back to what I was saying is that having this treatment become available is so exciting, and we need to let parents know and caregivers know it's okay for them to make that decision to give their child that treatment, because the reason that this treatment is happening, and there are treatments very similar coming up right behind it, is because achondroplasia is life-threatening. Because in the first 5 years of a child's life who lives with achondroplasia, in their first 5 years of life, they are at, and this is resourced from Professor Ravi Savarayan at Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Australia, who is world-renowned for his research in achondroplasia. Those with achondroplasia in their first 5 years of life are at a 500 times greater risk of SIDS than those without achondroplasia. To be honest, that should be enough already to know that achondroplasia is life-threatening. And it's just, there were so many ways that I thought about how I could make this, word vomit video go. But I think my point is that to the parents out there who you just feel like you don't know, I mean, you want to do what's best for your child, and you do know what is best for your child. I'm not the one who knows what's best for your child, and neither is somebody else with achondroplasia. Do they know what's best for their child? You know what is best for your child, because they're your child. You, to the mom, just because I feel like I talk more with moms than I do with dads. And, someday I'm going to be a mom if, that ever happens. But, you carried your baby for 9 months. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you had to have them early because of complications. But regardless, you carried your baby for 9 months. That's your baby. That is your child. That's the love of your life. And no one on this earth is going to make a better decision for the love of your life, your baby. No one is going to make a better decision than the one that you're going to make for them. And, it shouldn't feel like you're trapped in this just ring of fire and you're about to get burned because there are people who are making you feel like you don't know what the best options are for your child. They don't know what the best options are for your child because they are not the parent of your child. They did not carry your child. You know what to do for your child, and you know that the reason that you're making this decision to give your child this treatment option, or maybe put them in the trials for the other treatment options that are going to become available in the next few years, the reason that you're doing this is because you have done your research, you have spoken with the physicians, you have spoken with those who are specialized medically and everything about your child's condition. And you have thought long and hard about this to make the decision that you feel is best for your child. I know there are a lot of people who feel like by doing this, parents are going to take away their child's identity, and that's not it. It does not say on my driver's license, 4'11", blue eyes, brown hair, and achondroplasia. That's not my identity. It's not on my ID, and it doesn't need to be on my ID because it's not me. I am not achondroplasia, and neither, if you want it to be the main source of your identity, then let it be. But, let parents also treat and make the decision they feel is best for the child that they created, the love of life that they create, the love of their lives that they created, because that's what it is. And it's, this condition is life-threatening and it's scary. I am fortunate. I am beyond fortunate to have, not experienced or not gone through spinal fusions at a young age, and then that led me to not be as mobile with my arms. I have not had complications that put me in a wheelchair at 8 years old. I have not had to have a tracheotomy. I've not had to have, the only really non-elective medical intervention I had, or medical treatment I had for achondroplasia prior to my elective treatment of limb lengthening, were ear tubes. And I am so unbelievably fortunate that has been the case for me so far. But there are so many others my age who in their 28 years of life have had an experience with achondroplasia so much worse. And there are many people I know with achondroplasia that I knew with achondroplasia because they didn't have, weren't so lucky. And it's just, it is not a happy lollipop and gumdrops condition. It's scary, and it's just, I want parents out there to know, or anyone, I want anyone out there to know that, you can choose how you live with it, and until, I would say the individual with achondroplasia is able to, parents get to make that decision of how their child lives with achondroplasia. They just do. Whether you want to hear those words or not, they just do. My parents made all of my medical decisions for me before I could start, making them myself. And it's just, let it be and let it go. I mean, I just hate seeing a lot of these parents, they're already experiencing hell when they get their child's diagnosis, and when they decide that they want to treat their child's diagnosis so they don't have to experience that hell, they're experiencing it even more because people are making them feel like shit. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but I am almost 28 and I'm gonna cuss on my own thing if I can, because there's really no other better way I can say this. But people make them feel like shit for doing what they feel is right for their child. And this has just been on my chest for quite some time, and I just felt like I needed to get this out because of just how full circle everything has been. And happy birthday to me on Friday. I'm honestly really shocked that I did not cry in this video, because I did, and the many others that I did make. So I'm just gonna let that be. And also happy approval to treatment of achondroplasia.